I have with me, like I said, Sukena, Soumya and Nirmika. Let me begin this conversation with Sukena, if I can. Sukena, how really has the social media game changed over the years? I remember when we started, it was mostly about posting photographs and building a following, but today we see that social media has also diversified so much. You get the opportunity to put out your craft. There are people, who've just managed to make themselves into brands, or they've also partnered up with other brands. So how do you feel that the social media game has changed?
The social media game has changed So I would say that earlier, there are so many people who used to post photos and stuff, but now I think short video platforms are emerging, like Josh, and I would say that over the years, people tend to make a full-time job out of it. So yeah, I can say that people start earning about it.
Okay, so same question to you. How do you feel the social media game has changed? And as Sukena was also pointing out, that people are now earning really well and earning for themselves through these platforms. How has your experience been?
Yeah. So to start with, whether you post photos, you post videos, it's a platform for self-expression. You're more yourself on these apps because there is no job structure to it. You don't have a 9-to-5 job. Even if it is a creative job, you sit in the comfort of your house, come up with the best of your ideas and just put it out there. The best you can try to do in this entire situation is not run behind how this could be an income or revenue source to start with. The best you can do is express yourself freely, whether it's in the form of comedy, whether you make TikTok dance videos, whether you sing on this app. I think what this introduction of this short video platforms has done, especially for women, is that women are conditioned to not step out of their houses. We as a society have conditioned our women and promote our women to work from inside their homes. And the best revolution that has happened in this entire situation is that women who are sitting at home in any part of the country have no access to education sometimes, have no access to the privilege that you and I have belonging to tier 1, tier 2 cities. They are able to come front with it. I follow a Mehendi artist. She is from some village in Gujarat, and I follow her, and I see so many amazing women following her only and only because she decided to put up a TikTok someday of how she enjoys learning Mehendi, in the process also doing makeup. And this is a woman who probably hasn't even gone to school. Right. So the freedom that these platforms award to women around us, I think that's really commendable, and you earn out of it nothing like it.
Absolutely. That's a really good take. Sukena, Soumya, before I bring in Nirmika into the conversation as well, I just want to understand from you, the fact that most of these social media platforms are now moving towards shorter and shorter videos. Long format is not really encouraged so much. Our attention spans are going down. We don't want to watch something for more than over a few seconds. Does that somewhere bother you? Do you somewhere feel the pressure that, okay, how am I supposed to convey something fresh, something new in just say about 10 seconds? Sukena.
No, I don't agree with you because the thing is, short video is something where you can sit somewhere in the traffic and you want to just entertain yourself, and I think that is where short video come. But when you talk about long format is very much addictive, I would say. When you start watching vlogs or something like that, people wants to know about their life. People get connected to you.
Right.
So that is long and short videos platforms.
Okay. Soumya, same question to you.
There is nothing. See, the attention span has gotten shorter. You can't do anything about it. It's a scientific process of over the years we transformed from 3.5 hour long movies to 2 to 2.5. We're moving to 30 minutes episodes in a mini series now. So I think this is a very natural form of evolution of content because to no fault of entertainment standards, I think the bite-sized content you can communicate just as much as you want to in a long form. I think the storytelling is different. It's an entire different art form, doing long form and short form. So I agree with her that it's a bite-sized entertainment, and if you can communicate the best you can within 15 seconds to 1 minute, I think as long as you're doing justice to your audience, it's all cool. When you're asking somebody a minute of their life, you just justify it by giving them pure entertainment. So, yeah.
Okay, that's a great perspective. At the same time, I want to touch upon trolling as well. Unfortunately, we've been having these conversations for many years now, but social media boom happened about 6 to 7 years ago, I would say. And we've actually been talking about trolling every single year, and it seems that there's not been much of a solution to it. But more and more people have now started coming out, and they started sharing their stories, how they are being trolled, and how is it that they deal with it. So I want to begin with Nirmika, if I can. Nirmika, when you put yourself out there now through social media, everybody has the platform to become a star. So when you put yourself out there and you don't necessarily have the tools or the right support system to deal with the trolling that comes with it, how does one go about it?
Thank you so much for having me on this panel. It's a great honor to be here amongst some very incredibly talented women. मेरे साथ कुछ अलग हुआ actually, and I know that trolling is a rampant problem. Most women creators face it, and they face it because the people who are trolling us are mostly anonymous. मेरे साथ कुछ उल्टा हुआ. I have a journalistic career, but I made the switch 3 years ago. Where I turned poet, and I moved from.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would also like to tell our viewers, Nirmika is the youngest editor of Rolling Stones. Am I correct?
Just so it's fine, whether you become editor at, at the age that I did.
No, of course. I mean, it's a big achievement, and
thank you so much.
We must appreciate it.
Thank you so
Nirmika,
much.
Go ahead with your point.
No, yeah. So what I wanted to say was, it was remarkable in my case, and it also is a study into the psyche of, say, the Indian mind, mostly Indian male mind. Throughout my journalistic career, I was I work in Rolling Stone India, so we're dealing with rock and roll and concerts. In fact, a venue, say like an anti-social hard rock cafe or Blue Frog used to be my second home. So you'd imagine what a 20-something would be like, right? Ripped jeans, I had like a crazy hairdo, colored hair and whatnot. And I remember that when I would post images from gigs or maybe say say at Tomorrowland or a festival abroad, there would be that inquisitive there would be an eye of judgment from people where they either aspire to be in your position or thought that your job is too glamorous because that's the part that you showed, and that's the sort of mini trolling I got then. But when I turned poet and I was like, hey, you know what, let me see if I flip this coin and see how people would react if I appeared like the way I am right now and recite poems such as Kuch aise badle duniya ki meri kala meri surat ban jaye. Wow. And for me the trolling was weird because people were like, hey, हमें नहीं पता था कि आपको हिंदी भी आती है. तो उस समय एकदम से उन लोगों का जो सम्मान है मेरे प्रति एकदम से बढ़ गया, and that gave me a beautiful opportunity to throw it back at them and tell them कि अच्छा अगर मिनी स्कर्ट पहनी थी तो संस्कारी नहीं थी, हाँ अभी साड़ी पहन के आपके साथ आ रही हूँ, हिंदी में बात करी तो बहुत संस्कारी हो गई. So I think I take these pot shots at people whenever they try to sort of take that argument with me. But all in all, I think trolling can be addressed by, first of all, knowing as content creators that it takes a lot of courage. I know you take a lot of courage, we've taken a lot of courage just to be out there. Now how many people are able to be in that position where they have the gumption, the grit to present their art or their thoughts or just their self-expression like you mentioned. It takes a lot of courage, and when you have courage, I think you just have to own it and know that there will be people who will be envious of it. So I think I take it in my stride also because of just the identity that I've portrayed, and it's very sad when I say it. I haven't been subject to a lot of trolling, but then again, it really is reflective of the Indian male mind.
Yes, and very interesting perspective there. So Nirmika has had one sort of an experience. Sukena, what about you?
I would say trolling is something online and offline, wherein online is something anonymous trolling, but offline trolling is your relatives, your people who knows you, and they start to criticize you. What are you doing? Why are you doing? What are you making? Such a cringe video, like that way. So I would say that the best way to ignore, the best way to, the best way to ignore trolling is to ignore it. That is what I can say.
All right. Soumya, same question to you. How do you deal with trolling? What is it that you do to maintain your motivation, your mental health? How do you go about it?
When I was really young, my father always told me that there are only certain percentage of men. एक अमृता प्रीतम की एक बात है कि आप एक सशक्त औरत को सिर्फ एक अपनी कलीग की तरह बर्दाश्त कर सकते हैं, या वो अगर आपके सामने है, आप कभी भी उसे जीवन साथी के रूप में नहीं देखेंगे, आप कभी भी उन्हें अपने बराबर खड़ा हुआ नहीं देख सकते. प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जो ट्रोल कर रहे हैं, दीज आर 15-16 year old बॉयज जिनकी कंडीशनिंग वही है. दे हैव ग्रोन अप विद द आइडिया दैट बॉयज समहाउ आर सुपीरियर. उनका ओपिनियन हमसे ज्यादा मैटर करता है. और जब आप इंटरनेट पे वीडियोस बनाते हैं, the kind of videos that I make sure that my target audience is women. I make it for women. They are women's stories that are told by a woman. So उस केस में कई बातें होती हैं जो उनकी 25-26 साल की कंडीशनिंग को ना झकझोर के रख देती हैं इन अ मोमेंट. उन्हें लगता है कि ये हमने पर्सपेक्टिव कभी सुना ही नहीं है. एंड दैट्स द थिंग अबाउट इंडियन माइंडसेट, मेल माइंडसेट. दे हैव बीन ग्रोन अप विद द आइडिया कि अगर तुम्हारे मतलब की ये बात नहीं है तो यू हैव ऑल द राइट्स टू ओपनली वोकली से इट. प्रॉब्लम नहीं है इसमें कोई भी जब आप एक आदमी को ये बात सिखाते हैं. प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप अपनी लड़कियों को वैसे बड़ा नहीं कर रहे हैं. सो दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम. हाउ यू डील विद ऑनलाइन ट्रोलिंग इज इन वन सिंपल वे. आई अग्री विद हर, इग्नोर इट एंड मूव ऑन विद योर लाइफ, बिकॉज दैट इज projection of themselves on you. That is not what their perception of you. फर्क नहीं पड़ता वो क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं, as long as आप अपनी बात कहकर वहां से निकल सकते हैं. And the best way to like deal with it is to not engage with it at all. You're a 25, 30 year old woman. If you have learned so many things in your life by yourself or from people around you by reading, I think men should be able to do it too. हम किसी के टीचर नहीं है कि मैं वहां पर बैठ के समझाऊंगी हर आदमी को कि क्या पर्सपेक्टिव है मेरा. It's fine. I said what I wanted to say and I'm moving on with it.
And ये हर औरत की कहानी है ना, यही लगता है कि हर आदमी को हमें ही सिखाना पड़ेगा.
We're not here to fix anybody, so it's fine.
Absolutely, and that's the right way to go about it. Nirmika, you have a very interesting job, as I mentioned to people. You're also a music critic. So before we come back to online content creation, I just want to understand from you, this is a very unique profession. We've not had too many people. So if you can just give us a glimpse of what it is like to critique music.
That's sweet. Thank you so much. I haven't done this in a very long time. So I started my career as a student of journalism. In fact, I do believe that my career started with my studies. I studied at LSR, I studied journalism, went to JNU after that, studied political science. All this while I was singing in a band. I grew up in Delhi. I'm just giving you a backstory to basically lay the plot for how people do end up becoming music journalists. I understand it's a very specialized, a very niche job. I was always into music, heavily inspired by music. I was writing as a little kid. I always wanted to sing, and I grew up watching MTV because my sister was a big fan. So I grew up with a lot of music and a lot of sort of poetry in my formative years, which again is an important point. Whatever we want to instill in our young people, I think most of that installation, most of the imbibing happens at a very early age. So if there are parents here, please subject your kids or expose them to whatever you think will inspire them to become their future creative selves. So it was basically just a journalistic journey that became a music journalistic journey, because I only chose music to write about. So I've only ever written about music, and I think that's one of the things that I did very consciously, is to only stick to music journalism. My first job was at Hindustan Times. I was a music reporter. I worked there for 3 years, and then a beautiful offer from Rolling Stone India came by. I had, of course, grown up idolizing Rolling Stone, and I was a big fan of rock music, continue to be. So at 27, I joined Rolling Stone as the deputy editor. And since then, currently my position is executive editor. It's been 7 years. I'm very grateful. And I think the only learning that I can share with you is to stick to your guns no matter what. There were a lot of offers for me to, it's just me and what I loved basically back then, for me to have probably become a lifestyle writer or a travel writer. Politics was always close to me as well. but it was music that I chose. And I think that when you have a super specialization, you tend to become one of the very few people doing well, or maybe, you know, spotlighted in that stream. Of course, I'm keeping this in mind that everyone here considers talent to be a constant here. So of course you have to be talented. Of course you have to be determined.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you've shed some light on this very unique profession. You must have inspired a lot of young women watching to consider that as well. As we wrap this up, I just want to give Sukaina and Soumya one chance. If you can just tell us, where do you get your inspiration from? Who are the women that inspire you?
My inspiration comes from my mom, because she is a housewife, and housewife is not a small job to do, because it's a job of raising child, and I have seen her working so hard day in and day out. So I would say my mom has inspired me.
Alright, Soumya, as we wrap this up.
I think I would go with women I've seen in my life. My mom, my grandmother. I come from a partition family, so coming to India, having 4 kids, and then raising them all by themselves. My daddy was a huge inspiration for me. She raised the kids. She was a working woman and perfectly fine lady that I've learned so much out of. How to live like basic. I've learned something as basic as managing my house from her. Like, if somebody comes, you should have these things in your house, and if you're stepping out, you should be there should be not even a single crease on your clothes, is how you present yourself. Very, very basic. And stepping out, making your own money, being independent. And even when I'm making content, I make mom videos, and I make sure that my characters as women are not yelling, are not stereotypical. When I write them, I'm not writing them by looking at my mom. I am writing it as their friend. How empathetically I can write it, and as many women as around me as I can observe, and take amazing part from their personality and incorporate it into my writing and my content. That's been the goal ever since I started out. I studied finance for 8 years of my life, and I switched to this career like a year and a half ago. And my entire motivation was only and only to observe women around me, make content for them, and make them feel seen through whatever I'm doing. So yeah.
Well, it's been a lovely conversation with all of our content creators, and of course we hope to have more of these conversations. Let's have a huge round of applause for all our content creators.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.